This is reposted.
Mr. Keller, a recent great documentary came out on Netflix just at the end of last year called My Octopus Teacher. I watched it with my entire family, including my third kid being 8 years old, and we all loved it. To sum it up in one sense, dude becomes friend with an octopus. It's a real story. Wildlife photographer Craig Foster starts free diving off the coast of Cape Town in a kelp forest and runs into this tiny octopus. He goes back every day and they sort of form this relationship. They actually don't like eat dinner together, but they really do sort of form this connection, a man and an octopus. It's a great story. It's a family story. Have you ever become friends with an octopus?
Yeah, when I was in third grade, I had an octopus buddy that used to walk me to school, but that was only for third grade. I haven't seen him since.
Okay. I read a great article about the movie called Life Lessons from the movie My Octopus Teacher by Ashley Rinsberg on Medium. And the first lesson is this: stories take time. The water off South Africa is cold, so it takes Craig Foster a year just to get used to the coldness of the water because he wants to go al natural and not wear a wetsuit. Stories take time to develop because, well, the dude is also trying to become friends with a mollusk. In this day and age that we live in, we all want things right away, right? We want our packages from Amazon right away, our email responses, a text, money from Venmo. This movie is a good reminder that your story, your life, sometimes to be compelling, takes a little bit of time to get worked through.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he went into the process trying to become friends with an octopus, but it ended up turning into that. I think kind of the point was like he was trying to get a reset on life and figure stuff out and like stumbled across it and quote diving into unknown waters is what he did, which ended up turning out to be really cool.
I saw this interview with Daveed Diggs. He was one of the original cast members. I use this story a lot of Hamilton. I think he plays Thomas Jefferson and somebody else. He's a rapper from Oakland. And he says that all of a sudden he got all this success from Hamilton, but he didn't have any success in his acting career before that. And if he could tell his younger self one thing, it would just be like, be more happy with the process. Like we always want the next thing and we want it to come quick. But sometimes things in life take a long time to get to. And that, once again, is really hard to just enjoy the process in this day and age that we live in.
Yeah, his process was interesting to me. I mean, like he glossed over that it was arbitrarily, he didn't want to wear a wetsuit and he didn't want to have scuba gear, which is like an interesting thing when you decide you're going to spend every day in the water. But I don't know. I don't know if I enjoyed the documentary.
So are there things in life where you say, you know what, I maybe could have slowed through that a little bit longer and let that come to me? Or, I mean, you're just, your motto is do it. So, I mean, has there ever been, have you recently thought of it? Maybe it's during the pandemic, you know what, I'm going to enjoy like this house process for you, for crying out loud. You're just killing things and making it go quickly, but I suppose that has to go quickly.
Yeah. I don't want to enjoy that process. I want it to be over. For doing, I don't know. I think the kind of the main thing, the parallel I see in my life is like, he didn't know what he was going to get into. And he just like started doing something. And, I guess the universe revealed itself to him. He's like, this is what you should be doing. A little backstory on the movie is he was like an editor and filmmaker, and he's like, I've had enough, I'm working too much, I got to get back to nature. And then getting to nature made him want to pick up his camera again. So it's like, start doing something even if you don't know where it's going to take you, and if you listen, you'll be able to see which direction you should go in.
I like this life lesson. Good stories take time to develop. Think about your story in the longer version. All right, so we also live in a world in which scale, in other words, growing bigger, matters more, right? I mean, the jumbo meal, megabytes of data, bigger stadiums, Jerry Jones. This movie says, look for the small thing. Spend time on the coral reefs of life's searching for the tiny octopus. Big, big, big. This author's saying, look small.
Yeah, I think like I don't know if you do it anymore, you used to sit on your front porch and look at the trees. I think it's being able to slow down and look at what's going on around you is a nice thing to do. But I don't know. I guess my kind of against what this guy did, I would have worn scuba gear. I argue maybe he was less prepared. There was a shot where like he was watching something happen and he's like, I missed this because I had to go up to take a breath. But I think the sentiment of just like going for it and seeing what happens is good.
I mean, you would have done it a different way, but you understand the idea of what he was trying to do. He was trying to go into this natural environment and not have scuba gear. And he says, like, he wanted to be just one of the fishes on the reef. So he trained to take deep breaths. Like, I understand you would do it a different way, but you get the artistic vision of what he was trying to do, though, right?
A little bit, but I mean, having that camera with him is pretty jarring. Is I guess maybe the scuba leaves more of an imprint with the amount of bubbles and breath stuff coming. Also, I don't know. Maybe I'm too dependent on oxygen, but it probably. I don't know if it made a better product or not. It was really interesting, but that was the whole thing I kept thinking. I was like, man, why don't you just put scuba on?
Yeah, but sort of to push back on your idea, though, it takes him a year to do whatever this is that he doesn't know what it's going to be because A, he doesn't wear scuba gear and has to adjust to the water, and he doesn't know what he's going for. And so there's only a great story if he takes his time. That's the only reason. I mean, who knows? Because he has scuba gear on, the bubbles scare off the octopus, and we never have a story.
Yeah. I think, yeah. So you said this quote, diving into unknown waters, we tend to arm ourselves with equipment, and kind of goes on. I think there's two folds. Like you need to be able to be willing to take a plunge and just just like move forward or press ahead. But also, like you said, on the small things, be aware enough to notice the small things to be able to slow down for a second. Cause like he could have very easily missed this octopus, there would be no movie. But it's like he took the big step of like, I'm going in the ocean every day and this is what I'm doing. So it's like move forward, but also kind of be in a physically ready stance to be able to adapt.
Yeah. And that's one of the lessons, expose yourself. And just to kind of finish that quote, it says, letting yourself adapt to the new environment and not expecting it to adapt to you. I mean, type A people like my wife go in and we recently got a new place and she wants to arrange the furniture. She wants to buy the furniture before we even got into the new place. She wants it all set up. She wants everything perfect so that life can move on so that we can have the perfect house. But other advice we've gotten and I've gotten is like to live in it unfinished. Yep. So that you can let things kind of come to you and settle as it comes. So you're adapting to your environment, not just you're adapting to the environment, not it about anyway, the reverse of whatever that means.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you more aware when you're like when you adapt to the environment versus trying to force it. Like if you've ever traveled abroad, like if you just like observe the different cultures and kind of go with that, you're going to have a better, I would say, traveling experience than being like, well, I need to find my Hard Rock Cafe because that's what I normally eat. Like I'm going to go to Japan and get a hamburger. That's not you adapting to the new environment. So with a house or traveling, there's many ways that you can do that.
You know, that's kind of my approach. Like I really don't like going to museums. I'm not big on like the tourist attractions, but every time I've gone abroad, whether it be like Italy or Switzerland or wherever, I love just sitting in a cafe and watching people, like seeing how people do life in a different country. That's my favorite part, seeing how people dress, how they walk, how they eat, not necessarily standing in some line for 2 hours. Now, if you go to France, you got to go to the Louvre, I suppose, or Chicago, you got to go to the Sears Tower. But I just love seeing how people go through daily life.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about it before. Back-to-back years, I took trips. One was a 3-month, 5-country trip where I was moving every like 5 days. And there was another one where I lived in one country for 3 months. And I definitely learned a lot more about the country and myself when I was adapting to the environment versus I would argue the American way of traveling where you're moving all the time. So take 3 months off and go live in a different country.
Yeah, the American way of living or traveling is like, dude, where's the McDonald's? I got to get a burger.
It's aggressive. It's very aggressive. Well, if you want to supersize your meal, you can please reach out. Find us at Reposted Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I'm Andrew Keller for The Walrus. Thanks for stopping by.